Today, the world is littered with corrupt governments, governments where the leaders and the really rich men who surround the leaders, the oligarchs, they steal from people. That's what they do. The leaders and the leaders' friends just keep a hand constantly in the government treasury, and they steal taxpayer dollars. They rig the rules of the economy in order to make themselves fabulously rich. They hurt the citizens of those countries. Vladimir Putin, for instance, has never had a job outside of government, but he's reportedly worth $200 billion. One of his many houses cost $1.4 billion to build. Supposedly, the landscaping costs on an annual basis for that house are $2 million alone. That $1.4 billion house was paid for by money he stole from the Russian treasury. In other words, he stole it from the Russian people. Putin and his friends have been doing it for so long and doing it so openly and brazenly. Putin, for instance, wears a watch that retails for $500,000. For $500,000, even though his official salary is only $140,000. They've been doing this so openly and brazenly, they're so public in their corruption in Russia, that it's just accepted. It's just mainstream, the fact that Putin and his cronies steal from the Russian people. That's what's happening in America today. And it's heartbreaking for me to say this. But in the first 6 months of the Trump presidency, Trump and Elon Musk and their billionaire friends have engaged in a stunning rampage of open public corruption. It's not fundamentally different than what happened in Russia. These are efforts to steal from the American people to enrich themselves. So here it goes. We're going to start on January 17th. On January 17th, Trump launches the meme coin. This is maybe the most corrupt of all the acts, because what is the meme coin? The meme coin is essentially a mechanism by which Russian oligarchs or corporate CEOs can literally send money privately directly to Donald Trump. Nobody knows who buys the meme coin, but Trump makes money when people buy it. And so it is just an open sewer valve that allows for anybody who is trying to influence the Trump administration to be able to secretly funnel money to Donald Trump. He reserves 80% of the coin. He waits to release that coin until the price jumps back up again, which essentially means he's waiting for people who want favors from him to buy a bunch of the coin to inflate the value so that he releases more and makes more money. It's a disgusting kind of corruption, because this is essentially Trump just posting his Venmo for anybody secretly to wire him as much money as they want. We've never seen something like this before, where anybody who has anything to gain from the Trump administration through a manipulation of the value of Trump's meme coin can funnel money directly to the president, whisper in his ear, "That was me. That was me that purchased all that coin, that jumped up the value, that allowed you to release new coin. Hey, take care of me on the back end." On January 20th, when he's sworn in, he institutes his new energy agenda. Now, open reporting suggested that during the campaign, he met with the oil and gas industry, and they cut a deal in which the oil and gas industry would give him $1 billion of campaign contributions in order to receive favorable treatment when Trump was sworn in. And guess what happens on January 20th? Trump unveils his energy strategy. And what does it do? It preferences oil and gas, and it punishes oil and gas's competitors. It, for instance, freezes all permits on wind projects, both for the land and the sea. It undercuts permitting processes, not for oil and gas, but for oil and gas's competitors. Oil and gas got exactly what they asked for. They gave a campaign contribution, and they got the favorable treatment. 5 days later, Trump fires 17 inspectors general. What do inspectors general do? They look for corruption inside of these agencies. What do you do if you are trying to engage in corruption, if you are trying to steal from the American people, you fire the inspectors general. 2 days later, on January 27th, Trump fires Gwynne Wilcox from the NLRB. This is the National Labor Relations Board. When she's fired, the National Labor Relations Board cannot function any longer. Why does this matter? Because the person that has been put in charge of reviewing the hirings and firings of these agencies is Elon Musk, who, by the way, has lots of cases before the NLRB. So do the people that are standing behind Trump during the inauguration. Almost all of them have active cases before the NLRB. The billionaires supporting Donald Trump now don't have to worry about the NLRB because on January 27th, the NLRB is rendered.
This is Exodus chapter 23 and verse 8 in the NLT. And it reads, "Take no bribes, for a bribe makes you ignore something that you clearly see. A bribe makes even a righteous person twist the truth." All right, I want to start off by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rokah Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, who are the elders of Yasha Allah. And a sincere salutation to all Yuakim, who are preaching this word and believing this word, and to the Akwad, who are believing this word, in all truth and in sincerity. All right, I want to go into a lesson through the Spirit based on the clips that you just saw of Senator Charles Murphy and his explanation of the corruption of Donald Trump in his first 6 weeks in office, as well as his mentioning of Putin, because I want to highlight that we live and exist in a global system of corruption. All right, and this is against what the Lord told us to do as a nation of people. All right, this is Proverbs 29 and 2. "When the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. But when the wicked beareth rule, the people mourn." So the world is in a state of mourning because Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, has dominion on earth, and his God is his belly or his appetite. All right, and he pays people off to turn a blind eye to the corruption, whether it be here in the United States or on a global scale. All right, and this highlights why we understand through the Spirit the wicked are in authority. At this point, Donald Trump, all right, and his cronies, if you will, are basically stealing from their own people. When Charles Murphy mentioned they're stealing from the American people, he's not talking about you Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. All right, he's really talking about the average so-called white person because they hold the majority of the wealth on the planet outside of the elites, the super rich. All right, now let's go here. This is Ecclesiastes 14 and 5. It says, "He that is evil to himself, to whom will he be good? He shall not take pleasure in his goods. There is none worse than he that envieth himself, and this is a recompense of his wickedness." Now, when you look at the world that we live in today, the Russians are Edomites, or so-called white people. The Americans are Edomites, or so-called white people. And there's corruption on both sides, and they're against each other. And this highlights a system that we live in that is corrupt from the head to the tail. This is why the kingdom has to be translated from one people to another. All right, because there is no taking one part of this system out and putting something else in and making it better. There is no putting one good politician in the government and making the entire system different. It was created based on corruption, and that's what maintains it. All right, now real quick, this is Ecclesiastes 10 and 8, and it reads, "Because of unrighteous dealings, injuries, and riches got by deceit, the kingdom is translated from one people to another." And this is why we're looking at prophecy very closely through the Spirit, because again, prophecy points to a time of the end of wicked rulership and the beginning of righteous rulership. You can't have anything good come from a system that is built upon corruption. All right, and those examples that Charles Murphy brought out were basically some of many examples of how modern bribery works in this society. Whether it's campaign donations, whether it's lobbyists, all right, whether it's Trump and his meme coin, all of these are forms of corruption. All right, and the Lord advised us strictly against that. And because the law, statutes, and commandments are not being enforced in the earth, we live in a system of advanced and complex corruption. It's not just a brown paper bag now. Now it's an advanced system of donations, lobbying, all right, trips where it's not a monetary gift per se, but it's a trip, it's a luxury. And in exchange, these politicians do the bidding of those people who have done favors for them. And the Lord advised us strictly against that, man, because this is the type of system you have where most people suffer and very few are able to live a life of luxury and ease. All right, this is Isaiah 24:5. The earth also is defiled under the inhabitants thereof, because they have transgressed the laws, changed the ordinance, broken the everlasting covenant. Therefore hath the curse devoured the earth, and they that dwell therein are desolate. Therefore the inhabitants of the earth are burned, and few men left. So we live in a system that is completely opposite of the law, statutes, and commandments of the Heavenly Father. And this is why you see so much misery on the planet. This is why the reality of the majority of the people on the planet suffering, while very few enjoy the world, all right, is made a reality. Because we live in a world that is opposite of the Heavenly Father. And this shows you through the Spirit that it's more than just the 10 Commandments. The Lord checked every box concerning how to live productively with equity on the earth. You know, when we were in Christianity, you know, we didn't know about these laws concerning bribery. And here it is, the Lord is checking these things. And now this is exposing the system that we live in today. And it's beautiful because you have Edomites, all right? Charles Murphy, and maybe he's a Jake. I'm just putting that out there, but he appears to be an Edomite. And we're in a point now where you have Edomites that are telling on themselves. All right, real quick. This is Psalm chapter 64 and 8. And it reads, so they shall make their own tongue to fall upon themselves. All that see them shall flee away. Because all the evidence he's bringing out really points to a bigger problem. And it's the so-called white man's rulership as a whole. What Charles Murphy think he's bringing out concerning one politician really exposes the entire system. You know, that's why I wanted to catch the part of him mentioning Putin. Because while we understand that Putin is a better option on the world stage for the other nations, they're not exempt from corruption as well. They're also just as corrupt, if not more. Because they don't have the same regulations as these Americans. But even with all these regulations that they have on this side, they're still able to accomplish a very complex system of corruption through campaign donations. And the one that was news to me was the meme coin that he mentioned. Now, also, I want to highlight something else, because the small hats are also involved in serious corruption, all right, and bribery. All right, when you deal with AIPAC is a lobbying group, all right? And it basically lobbies on behalf of the small hats. All right, and for those who don't know, that's the state of Israel. So you have the state of Israel running both a blackmail operation with guys like Epstein, where they get dirt on these politicians to keep them in line, and also the donations. So you have the silver or the bullet tactic, which means you could either take the money or you could take the bullet. But either way, you're going to do what I tell you to do, or we're going to move you out of the way. And the state of Israel, which is the small hats, which is the chief house of the so-called white man, they have created this network of systems to keep the U.S. government in check. This is why no matter if it's Democrats or Republicans, they all are on agreement with the state of Israel. And it's because of groups like AIPAC. All right, now I want to read a little bit of this. All right, it says, there is a lot of talk these days about the influence of the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, AIPAC, on the policies of the U.S. government. Some opponents of the war in Gaza claim that without the influence of AIPAC, the United States would not be supporting Israel. And they don't realize that it's not just the donations. It's also the blackmail ring that they have behind closed doors. All right, it says, to be sure, AIPAC is a powerful lobbying group that uses its financial power to influence U.S. politics. However, it is not to find people circulating claims online that AIPAC is the modern manifestation of an ancient Jewish cabal that secretly controls the world. This is lunacy and has zero basis in reality. The fact is that AIPAC alone is not the problem. Rather, it is a symptom of the problem. AIPAC is one of many lobbying groups that use their financial resources to push our government to adopt policies that only serve narrow interests. It's true that AIPAC is pushing for the U.S. to continue supplying Israel with weapons, but so are Lockheed Martin, Boeing, and other defense contractors, not to mention any number of other businesses that stand to make money off of Israel's genocidal war. Now, I want to read that portion of this article because everybody's involved. The small hats, the corporations, certain wealthy families in Babylon the Great, which is America. And this points to a larger problem that we live in a world that is based on corruption. All right, this is how Esau is able to commit the crimes that he's able to commit, and everybody see it and nobody say anything. All right, this is Isaiah chapter 5 and 20. It says, "Woe unto them that call evil good and good evil, that put darkness for light and light for darkness, that put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. Woe unto them that are wise in their own eyes and prudent in their own sight. Woe unto them that are mighty to drink wine and men of strength to mingle strong drink, which justify the wicked for reward and take away the righteousness of the righteous from him." All right. And again, the world has justified the wicked for reward. The wicked being Esau, Edom, the so-called white man. And it's not just what he does in America. It's what he's doing globally. And this is why the Lord advised us against things like bribes, because it creates a system of corruption. And this is one of many highlights through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shema Shai that we live in a world according to the words of the Lord. You know, the Lord called it before we actually lived in it and existed in it. All right, real quick, this is Isaiah chapter 46. And I'm going to jump down to verse 9. "Remember the former things of old, for I am power, and there is none else. I am power, and there is none like me, declaring the end from the beginning, and from ancient times the things that are not yet done, saying, my counsel shall stand, and I will do all my pleasure." So the Lord called it out before it even happened. The Lord mentioned what happens when you have a system of corruption. And ultimately what ends up happening is you have a corrupt, destroyed world where the majority of the people are miserable. And this is only one of many things. Because when you think about the bribery and corruption, this is how you're able to have GMO foods. Because the food industry can bribe the politicians. This is how you can have microplastics and everything. Because the corporations are able to bribe the politicians to turn a blind eye. Or you can pay a guy like Donald Trump to just fire a whole department of people who are set up to review and make sure shit like this doesn't happen. And according to prophecy, this is how we understand who Esau, the so-called white man, is. He's the wicked. The scriptures say Esau is the end of the world and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. That end of the world meaning in the end of an age. The end of an age of corruption. All right. And the Lord, his hands is in it, first and foremost. World War III, pestilence, famine, everything that the Lord has planned for this place is to destroy the wicked rulership so that righteousness can reign in the earth. Because without this being destroyed, righteousness cannot reign. You can't start a legitimate Israelite community in a system that is built on corruption. That's ruled by a nation of people that hate you. But the beauty of it is that evil destroys even itself. Because everything that the senator was talking about is really an attack on the average so-called white person. And Trump is telling them to blame Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans while stealing from them. You know, it shows you that he who is evil to himself, to whom will he be good? At this point, he's thrown his own people into the food chain. And without the Lord removing this system, righteousness cannot flourish, man. All right, this is 2 Ezra chapter 4. And I'm going to jump down to verse 26. It says, "Then answered he me and said, the more thou searchest, the more thou shalt marvel. For the world hasteth fast to pass away, and cannot comprehend the things that are promised to the righteous in time to come. For this world is full of unrighteousness and infirmities. But as concerning the things whereof thou askest me, I will tell thee, for the evil is sown, but the destruction thereof is not yet come. If therefore that which is sown be not turned upside down, and if the place where the evil is sown pass not away, then cannot it come that is sown with good. For the grain of evil seed hath been sown in the heart of Adam from the beginning, and how much ungodliness hath it brought up unto this time? And how much shall it yet bring forth until the time of threshing come? And see, we're coming into the time of threshing. That's why the Lord is exposing all of this. You know, the scriptures say that ye are my witnesses. The Lord is exposing all this information to us to see why it's necessary, why the judgment is so necessary, why the time of threshing is so necessary. Righteousness cannot flourish in a garden full of weeds. All right, continuing, it says, verse 31, ponder now by thyself how great fruit of wickedness the grain of evil seed hath brought forth. And when the ears shall be cut down, which are without number, how great a floor shall they fill? All right, blood up to the bridle. Because the Lord is about to, if the world is a harvest, the Lord is about to thresh. Meaning he's about to remove all the weeds. And the good seed, which is the elect, the Lord has in his hand. We're not planted yet. We're not planted yet. We're in the hands of the Heavenly Father. We're in transition, if you will. Because the Lord has to thresh this floor before he can sow that good seed into the ground, meaning to establish the kingdom of heaven. And in order for it to truly be established, the world of the wicked, the rulership of the wicked has to be cut off. Root and stem. All right. And that's why the Lord is bringing together this judgment, this great judgment. Is meant to destroy this system from the head to the root, man. All right. And this example of bribery, though it's a very small example, it points to a larger picture that the root of wickedness has been sown in this earth and is so abundant that without the Lord removing it out of power completely, righteousness cannot flourish. You have our people who are still beating a dead horse. They're trying to somehow in their mind think that, look, if we just change this politician, if we just vote this way, nah, it don't work like that. It has to be destroyed completely. All right, real quick, this is Malachi chapter 4 and verse 1. For behold, the day cometh that shall burn as an oven, and all the proud, yea, and all that do wickedly shall be stubble. And the day that cometh shall burn them up, saith the Lord of hosts, that it shall leave them neither root nor branch. Because what the senator brought out points to a larger picture that this wickedness is not just located in the United States. It's global. It's a global system of corruption where all the politicians are corrupt in some way, form, or fashion because they have to exist in a corrupt system. You can't turn a ship on a dime. And the will of the Lord is to destroy this ship concerning this rulership. Not to change a couple parts and make some repairs, but to destroy this rulership and establish something different upon Yahweh Shai, whom the world ignorantly calls Jesus. All right, this is Ecclesiastes chapter 10 and verse 4. The power of the earth is in the hand of the Lord, and in due time he will set over it one that is profitable. All right, so Lord willing, this was edifying. With that, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, who are the elders of Yashar Allah, and a sincere salutation to all you Akim, who are preaching this word and believing this word, and to the Akwath who are believing this word in all truth and in sincerity. Shalom.